and welcome to Unapologetic, the UK podcast on politics, news and stuff from a right-of-centre viewpoint. And four of us here tonight. We've got Jonathan.
Good evening.
We've got Susan.
Hello.
We've got Sam.
Hi, hi, hi.
And I'm Steve. Hi, hi, hi.
We'd like to mix up a bit.
Oh, we say Heidi hi next time. Okay, we've got a few things on our special agenda today, and the first one is that Labour condemns the NHS crisis. Of course they do, it's election time. So Labour condemns NHS crisis, and A&E figures reveal waiting times at their worst on record, apparently. The latest figures show that just 83.6% of patients were seen within 4 hours in October, significantly short of the 95% target, which has not been hit since July 2015. This compares to 85.2% in September and 89.1% in October 2018. Conservatives respond by pointing out that their record on spending on the NHS and the public seems to support them, with the Conservatives outpolling Labour on who is trusted most on the NHS. So the attack line doesn't seem to be working, but what do you make of this, Susan?
Well, I spend a lot of time in hospitals and I see the people that go for the A&E, and I don't think you can put a time limit on anyone's accident or emergency. And I would sit there and query, if people are waiting around for 4, 5, 6 hours for treatment, then they're not exactly an accident or an emergency. So I filled in a survey the other day from the NHS Trust that asked me, should we be sending people away that access the service when they don't need it? And I think that's probably where the waiting times come from. Like I said, if you can wait that long, you shouldn't be. That's not the service for you.
Yeah, I must admit, in all the times I've been to A&E, I don't think I've ever been seen in less than 4 hours since I was a kid. No. I don't think in any of the times I've ever been, I've been seen in less than 4 hours.
It's because you go with an accident emergency. So I was in there a little while ago, and a lady was in front of me, and she sat there and said, I'm here because 3 weeks ago I twisted my ankle, and it's not got any better. And that was 3 weeks ago with a twisted ankle. This is she should have been turned away. Yeah. So she would have been waiting there a lot longer than she needed to be, because people were in there that needed to be seen. And come pub turning out time, the place fills up with drunks who've fallen over and banged their head away. What do you make of it, Sam?
Yeah, I think that's the problem when you've got something that's free. Everyone uses it. So doctors, NHS, hospitals. I mean, I can't even remember the last time I went to see my doctor, to be honest with you. I haven't got time to go to the doctors. I work. There's no appointments for me. But I get people that say, every time I feel minorly ill, I'll go to the doctors. No, I don't want to just go to the doctors. But some people it's like a hobby to go to the doctors. They're in there for every single minor ailment.
I think they see it as their God-given right because they pay that tax. So therefore it's their right to use it, rather than actually is it a responsible thing to use it.
Yeah, and it's the same with the A&E. People go in there for such minor things, like, I've cut my finger and stuff.
Yeah, some people do. I think there is probably some abuse because there's no penalty to not abusing it. There's no penalty for the abuse, so you might as well go, I guess. But I think also sometimes people get frightened, don't they? And the NHS is the place to go to if you're frightened about something that's wrong with you. I mean, what do you think, Jonathan? You normally have strong views on things like this.
Well, I was going to say, first of all, I think ought to dispel this kind of myth that was some golden age where you kind of got seen instantly in A&E. Many moons ago, and I'm talking 20, 25, 30 years ago, I ended up getting beaten up on New Year's Eve. So police took me to accident and emergency.
Yeah, sorry about that. It was, but you had really annoyed me.
I've forgiven you now. But anyhow, the police took me there, and I sort of arrived there at about 10 o'clock in the evening, and that wasn't seen till the following morning. And I was pretty miffed about this. So I'm talking to the woman who's at the hospital and said, well, what's the problem? She said, well, you're waiting to see a doctor. I said, well, how many doctors are there? And she said, well, bear in mind this was New Year's Eve. 1. I said, 1 doctor in A&E on New Year's Eve? No, 1 in the hospital.
Oh, no way.
And that hence I wasn't seen till 6 o'clock in the morning when the doctor reappeared. So, I mean, there was never that golden age. So what's the problem at the moment? The answer is same issue, no doctors. And on this one, strange enough, I've got to blame the Conservatives. And specifically George Osborne. Because what he did, and this was highlighted back in 2016, because he decided to go down a socialist route and tax people on a higher income. So what he did, he got rid of the pension relief for higher rate earners, including doctors, because they actually, most of them, those who are senior and within hospitals are on over 100,000 a year and have pension pots which came to up to £1 million, or they were up to £1.25 million, and he decided to get rid of this allowance from £1.25 million down to £250,000. So the result is these guys actually lose money if they work extra hours, and indeed, if they only work 3.5 days a week, they'll have a £60,000 pension. But if they work 5 days a week, they'll only have a £50,000 pension. So they'll end up with a smaller pension for working longer.
I knew there was a reason I didn't like George Osborne.
Not surprisingly, these guys decide, well, actually, if I'm going to have a bigger pension doing 3.5 days, that's what I will do. Or I'll retire or whatever and take my pension out. And the result of this was the Conservatives going down a socialist route, saying, oh, we need to tax these wealthy people. The unforeseen consequence of taxing higher earners is that they stop doing the work they're doing, including surgeons and anaesthetists and all the rest of it, and the NHS then has a crisis because these people don't turn up.
So are you saying that that's come on to modern day? Is that some part of the problem or not?
It is. I mean, that's the situation. And this was because the Conservatives adopted what is essentially a stupid socialist idea, i.e. tax the rich.
So, tell me, Susan, have you noticed that when a general election is coming that we always seem to get the Labour making the big deal about the NHS?
Yeah.
Is that a common thing?
It's always the NHS because people are so scared that they're going to lose the NHS. I mean, it's our safety net, isn't it? You know, every family that needs it. I've used it hundreds of times with my family. Unfortunately, you just do. You know it's there. I don't have to worry. I do have to worry about prescriptions because I pay for my prescriptions and they are very hefty. But actually,
you don't have to worry about a £200,000 bill after a serious operation, which people in other countries have had to face.
And I would hate to be in that situation. We hear the horror stories about America and people not being able to afford insulin and all sorts of other things. So we don't want it to go down that route. So the NHS is the biggest battle because they swear to God that the Conservatives are trying to privatise it. And the only people that could ever save it is Labour.
The trouble is they say that Conservatives are trying to privatise it with no evidence because Conservatives have controlled the NHS for longer than Labour have since it was founded, and there's no evidence that the Conservatives ever want to privatise it. What Conservatives do is try to find the best use of the money and bring in sometimes outside contractors to help with things, which Labour did also under Tony Blair. But the funny thing is, I think I saw a report today that said something about if Labour's plans were carried through, then we'd need another 6 hospitals. Just because of the additional monies that would then be needed, because you're not getting the savings from the outside contractors. What do you think, Sam?
Yeah, all I would say is, I was just looking for the title now on Google, so couldn't remember. I read a book that was recommended to me called This Is Going to Hurt by Adam Kay. It's written by a junior doctor and it's really a must read. Read it. It's really good insight into the NHS.
All right, well, we'll put a link for that in the
description
if anyone wants to read it.
Out at the moment. It's not like paid me or anything.
We haven't got sponsors yet. No. We do hope because we are Conservatives in spirit. So of course we want sponsors. If anybody would like to sponsor us, we are available. But there are limits. Obviously, we're not prepared to sponsor suppositories, but pretty much most other things.
But he's got a new book out as well called "'Twas the Night Shift Before Christmas," and I keep meaning to go and buy a copy, but I haven't yet. So
what was the general consensus of it then?
To be honest with you, I can't remember because it's so he tells it basically in the form of diaries and
Hold on, you're recommending a book that you can't remember what's in it?
No, because I've done a lot of reading and sleeping since then, but some of it's quite light-hearted and he talks about the funny side and actually and the pleasant stuff, like because he did a lot of work as a gynaecologist. And
that's a pleasant work.
No, but he makes a funny joke about how the actual Royal College of Obstetrics and Gynecology website is blocked by the NHS because they say it's pornographic, which is like a main thing you use to do your job. This website, so little jokes like that.
The automatic web filters.
Yeah, so it's like little frustrations.
The same stupidity in the National Record Office, where if you wanted certain documents from particular towns. Something come Wilton, you can't get it without asking for it. You know.
I see.
Thanks for that there, Jonathan.
I didn't even hear what you said.
Yeah, all right, let's go no further with that one. Look, guys, I think we've had a good chat about this, but it's time to move on because otherwise we'll be here all night. And the next item on our agenda is Corbyn again. Corbyn says Labour will not put an arbitrary target on immigration. So the party leader defends the value of migration to society as Conservatives pledge to cut the numbers. Jeremy Corbyn has said Labour will not put an arbitrary target on immigration as he defended the value of immigration to society. I know I've said that twice. Conservatives and Labour have clashed over this issue. Corbyn strongly rejects the idea of any sort of limit, saying putting arbitrary figures on it, as successive governments have done, simply doesn't work. So that's Corbyn's position on immigration. How do you think, Sam, how do you think that's going to go with the voting public?
Well, I think that people do want some kind of controls because you can't just have a free-for-all open door. So I don't think Corbyn's doing himself any favours with this one.
Susan?
I agree with Sam. I just don't know how. I don't know how you can't have some sort of restrictions or some sort of, I don't know, plan of action. What you're going to do. You can't.
I mean, the left always seem to believe this, don't they? They seem to think that complete free movement is the way to go. And it puzzles me why they think that. In no other circle of life would you just have the door open and say anyone can come and go?
No.
Would you? Even churches don't do that these days, do they? Because there are consequences to those decisions. And I don't think it's not evil to say we want to know who's coming in and out and we want some control over it.
Common sense,
doesn't mean
isn't it?
we're excluding anyone or that we're saying anyone doesn't deserve to be here. It just means we want oversight into people who are going to come and join our society.
Well, if someone knocks on your door and says, "I'm the gas man," you ask for ID. So if you take the same sort of route when you're asking people to come into your country, you need to know that they're okay. You need to know what they're bringing, why they're bringing it, why they're moving.
Yeah, have they committed some sort of crime that you want to know about?
One
Are
of
they
the-
planning some sort of malicious behaviour?
One of the most serious case reviews that they've had is a paedophile that moved from one country to this country and that was allowed to carry out acts because there wasn't any checks across countries. So you need to know who's coming in and why they're coming in.
I've had one of those in the news today. Somebody that we kicked out because they were a paedophile and we sent them and they went to Pakistan and when they got there they did paedophile acts in Pakistan and have been arrested. So this stuff goes both ways.
Yes,
What do you think, Jonathan?
Strangely, I go a completely different direction. As much as I've no problem with free movement, what I have a problem with is free movement coupled with benefits. I think if free movement was coupled with no benefits for the first 10 years and was also coupled with you pay a flat rate 50% income tax on all your earnings while you're here for those 10 years, I have no problem coming here. If they're good enough to come here and earn enough to live, crack on.
What about services though? So even if you come here, you still have to access services, the schools, the NHS, all those other things that you have to access, your bins being collected, all those other things. So even if you didn't get benefits, you still access.
I mean, a lot of those things are paid through your council tax that you'd still have to pay. And in regards to things like the NHS, well, people should have insurance if they're coming here temporarily, just like we have,
Agreed.
just like we have
I
insurance if we
completely
go
disagree
elsewhere.
with all of you on that because you're not talking. There's a difference between immigrants and the migrants from the EU. So that's the first thing. I think they're talking about immigration more from outside the EU, and secondly, from inside the EU, the majority of these people that is a real myth that is spelled by so many gammons that like all these foreigners from the EU are coming here and stealing all the benefits and services. Most of them are working and paying taxes.
Yeah. Nobody said that though.
They
To be
are,
fair,
well,
nobody said
paying
that. To be fair,
taxes.
and I think you're wrong about that because shortly we won't be in the EU anymore, and so there really will be no difference between one sort of immigrant and another. You're right that while we were members of the European Union project, there was a difference, but soon there won't be any difference at all. We believe. So once that's the case, you have to view all immigrants the same way. And anywhere else we go in the world, we need insurance to cover our healthcare. We don't get automatic free healthcare. I mean, we did while we were part of the European Union project to a degree, but in future we won't. If we fly to America, we have to get insurance because if you get injured, it's got to be paid for.
Yeah, but I think the problem with what you guys are saying is it's not beneficial to the immigrants to come over here and work because paying taxes they're not going to get anything benefit for their taxes. Whereas they're basically, if you're an English-born citizen and never did a day's work in your life, you get free healthcare, you get free school, you get free everything basically. And I think that's not maybe the way to look at it is if you pay taxes you get stuff. I don't know, but then people are going to complain, oh well, I'm starving.
But to a degree, I mean,
Do you know what I mean? I'm not trying to be funny. I'm not saying like we should have a free
you
open
and
door.
your parents and your family spend their life building up a pot of
Not
healthcare
everyone
money.
does though.
Yeah, but more do than don't. That's how the system works.
Yeah, but it does.
The
That's
system,
why we're
you
in
described
crisis.
earlier how you almost never go to the NHS. So bringing in more people to use the services who haven't built up that pot just puts a bigger stress on.
Yeah, but I don't think that's right because the NHS is in crisis because it's so expensive. So, you can have a person working and paying tax their whole life and have one operation which pretty much eats up their entire tax contribution.
Yeah, you can. But that's why there are lots of people who aren't having an operation who are paying tax at that time that cover them. But if you've got people who haven't spent years building up the pot, then they've just they could immediately need that operation, and they've got no build up.
What I would rather have as an immigration system is you can come anyone can come over from any country on these two bases is that you must never have had a criminal record. You must start work immediately, and if you stop work, you're not entitled to any benefits, and you have 3 months to find new work before you're immediately shipped home to wherever you come from, whether it's inside Europe, outside Europe, because that would make sure you're getting people here that are actually working and doing the jobs. People wouldn't be coming over here to scam anything because they couldn't scam benefits.
But it doesn't work because people come here and vanish. They come here and they just vanish into the system, and you can't find them. And then they can work illicitly, or they can commit crime to fund themselves, or they can be on the streets, and you've lost them. You've lost them because the open door let them come in, and boom, they've gone. And this is a problem that lots of countries are facing, America particularly, which doesn't have our benefit of being surrounded
they come in
by water.
illegally, not legally.
No, lots of they are coming in illegally, but it's easy to do so. That's the problem, and an open door system simulates that.
The other issue is one of families as well. It's all very well having one individual come in and work and pay taxes, but and if you had a complete ban on foreign children coming at all, that would make sense. In other words, you're getting the economically important people coming in, the economic drains are being kept out. So, if they send the money home, fine, but they can't bring their children here.
But no one would do that, though, would they?
Yes, they
Nobody
would. People
would.
go to other places and work.
Yeah, but you
and
can't
send money
ban
home to their
people's
family.
children from coming over.
Well, you
It's
can.
actually-
And also,
some of those
it's
children-
bad economics.
Some of those
It's bad
children-
economics because even if they send their money home, we still benefit because the money has to be converted and someone has to buy pounds.
Exactly. There's no problem with them sending money home, but there is a problem with them, bringing tax burdens over here, and wives who are not working, children that are not working, dogs that are not working. Keep them back in, wherever you come from.
That's
Dogs.
a conversation. No, there's massive business at the moment with dogs being brought in from different countries to be housed. Rescue dogs. Massive.
I just think the problem is it's such a
Rescue dogs.
Yes, rescue dogs, like the Romanian rescue dogs and the Spanish rescue dogs, all coming over here. There's like loads of them on Facebook. Have you not seen them?
And doing what?
So they come over and then you adopt them. So you adopt an Eastern European dog or whatever dog from a different country.
Well, I presume people are doing so. So
Yeah, no,
I don't see
they
a
are.
It's only like another. It's only like another import. It's only a good, isn't it?
I tell you what, I think the biggest problem was actually with the whole why this has all caused this is because it was unlimited immigration. That was the problem.
Well, exactly. Too
With
much
the-
change too fast frightens people.
And to be fair to the people though as well. So for instance, when you're used to phoning up the doctors and getting an appointment, and then 6 months down the line you phone up and you're told there are no appointments, the average Joe person is not going to like that. They're not going to like it when when their child's class changes dramatically. They're not going to
And you
like
suddenly
it.
need teachers to speak 6 languages
Yes.
instead of 1. It is a stress on the system,
Yes.
and there are lots of invisible stresses on the system. And don't get me wrong, a lot of people come here and do fantastic work
Yes.
and build brilliant lives and become great members of the community. But we can't ignore the costs of an open door immigration policy, which is why we don't propose stopping immigration. We just propose sensible controls on immigration.
No, and I don't dispute that. I just think, and I'm not kind of saying I'm pro free immigration because I'm not. I just think that I think it's very quick to blame a lot of people that have come from the European Union. I mean, locally they do it. A lot of people blame the Lithuanian people and say they're sitting there on benefits. Actually, a damn sight of them are working and they're sending their kids to
Yeah,
school.
of course. It
and
doesn't
they're,
even make sense to say they're stealing your jobs and they're taking all your benefits because they're the opposite
tax.
thing. Yeah.
They're paying council tax, they're paying income tax. They're actually contributing more than some other members of society are contributing. And I just think that everyone should be a bit less quick to blame other people. all over society, really.
Yeah, but we also mustn't ignore the real effects of a very fast immigration process on our services and on our culture, because it's the quick cultural change that makes people frightened. Nobody really likes massive change fostered on them. Most people can accept change that happens gradually.
I don't know, is the answer. Maybe that's why people feel a bit frightened. I don't know.
And I'm not sure a lot of integration work was done, was it? Because I think a lot of people put their hands up and says, well, we can't do anything because we just must accept. And actually, in some cultures, in some countries, if a woman has bare skin, for instance, that's an invite. And now there was no one that ever stopped these people and said, that's not how we do it here. That's not what we mean here.
Yeah.
So
I mean, for me, the
difference.
biggest barrier for me to people integrating is language. I genuinely believe that if somebody comes here and can speak excellent English, they've got a much better chance of integrating. So for me, immigration controls should revolve around saying, how good is your English? Because I don't think you can even start if you can't communicate.
That's true.
So, I mean, that's just my view. What do you think, Jonathan? Want to chip in a last thing before we move on?
Yeah, I was just interested by the use of the word arbitrary. What he means is we're not going to introduce any immigration controls because all immigration controls are arbitrary.
Well, of course, that's what he means.
Exactly. He's just being mealy-mouthed.
It was Labour who opened the door in the first place, and he just wants to go back to those days. And I don't think it's helped anyone, frankly. Really.
I mean, to describe, if you decided, we need agricultural workers, well, at the end of the day, that's arbitrary. Why do you not need aerospace workers?
Although we do need agricultural workers.
Yeah, I know.
Because
but
a lot of
you see
English
what I'm
people
saying?
are too lazy to do it.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to get in trouble.
Yeah, saw my face going in.
Yeah, well, no, but the truth is, no, don't get me wrong. Look, I know English people who work really hard. Loads of them work really hard. They're prepared to put the time in. But if you ask any farmer who is coming to do these kind of fruit picking jobs, there weren't a lot of English people turning
There's
up
not
to
anymore.
do that. No.
And there's probably a good reason for that, because back in the old days when I was a young sprog and used to walk and do the apple picking and everything else with everyone else, you couldn't make a living out of doing that. It was seasonal work. You couldn't pay the rent and everything else. What you had to tend to do is do a little bit of both. So you had to a little bit of claim on the system, and you had to do a little bit of cash in hand work, and it worked out quite well. But when they stopped that, people couldn't make a living doing that. You just can't. It kills you. I mean, we've got a young death rate around here anyway. When you work on the land, there is a reason for that. You just can't physically do it, and financially you just can't do it.
That's an interesting view, and it suggests another one of these unintended consequences of what seemed to be a good-hearted policy earlier, but one perhaps to explore for another day. So moving on to our agenda item 3, and this is a fun one. In a storytelling session with children today, I think, Boris Johnson revealed that his favourite superhero is the Hulk. This rings true because it's not the first time he's mentioned the green-skinned champion, having previously expressed the Hulk in several metaphors, including saying that we'll break free of the EU like the Incredible Hulk, and pointing out that the angrier Hulk gets, the stronger he gets. Now, Mark Ruffalo, the actor who sometimes plays the Hulk, has challenged Boris's use of the metaphor, but then he is a pretty well-known lefty liberal over there in America. So I've just wondered what you think, first of all, about the Hulk being Boris's choice of favourite superhero. Susan?
At least he didn't say the Joker.
He's sort of some people are calling him a hero, an anti-hero.
I would probably say he's probably mine at the moment. So
Oh, dear.
I'm kind of glad that he didn't say that the Joker was his.
That worries me because the Joker's a real bad guy. But
We like to, emotionally messed up, thank you. We don't like to judge him.
now look,
I
that
think it's
movie
important
does
to
not
support.
represent canon. The Joker is a bad guy. Sam?
I don't know. I think the Hulk is a bit rubbish, if I'm honest.
You've
It's the
never
strongest
liked
one there is.
It's not really.
That is actually his name. Hulk, the strongest one there is. That's his
No,
tagline.
he went up against Thor and he didn't win. So
Yeah,
he's
but
not the
that's
strongest one.
because Marvel movies are rubbish. They don't get it right. They're not accurate. Let me give you an example of some of the things that let me tell you some of the things Hulk has done. Right, the Hulk had a battle with Superman. Now you think that's impossible? 'Cause- hang on, let me finish. Marvel and DC, they're different comic brands, right? But occasionally they cross over, and in one crossover, the Hulk punched Superman into space. Okay, now that takes some strength, right? He held up a mountain range. He stopped a star in space, stopped it from smashing into a planet. And what else did he do? He destroyed an asteroid twice the size of the Earth. And once, now get this, Hulk punched out time. He punched time so hard that he punched his way through time. Now,
What about past?
that's a superhero and a half.
But
That
he
is.
has caused like millions of pounds worth of damage to buildings, hasn't
They
he?
all do.
And also,
They all superheroes cause massive
Yeah,
the
property
problem
damage.
with Hulk is, right, what you're forgetting is his literally being strong is his only power, and that's trumped by a number of things. I mean, you have someone like Charles Xavier or Jean Grey, anyone that can basically do telekinesis, makes him punch himself to death. That's the first thing they could do.
But except that they never did manage.
Yeah,
when
but
he's back
they could do that.
They tried, and the Hulk is like,
Okay.
the angrier he gets, the stronger he gets. So he breaks free of the hold
And
and
he's not
pounds
very
them.
bright, is he?
And then what about like Doctor Strange? He could do a time loop and keep sending Hulk into different times.
Yeah, there's not really been a lot of battles between that I'm aware
Well, no,
of between
in-
Doctor Strange and the Hulk.
No, but the time lady did, tapped him and put him out the Hulk's body. You don't remember that? On top of the building.
Yeah, but Doctor Strange is other than the
No,
other than the fact that he can cast spells, he's a normal human, and so
he's a
and
genius.
remember the Hulk can jump like miles,
And also-
so he only has to jump, and he'll look up and he'll see this green thing hurtling towards him,
Another
and he'll
thing-
say, maybe I need
Listen.
the Eye of Agamotto or whatever, and
Listen.
then splat.
Another thing, Ant-Man could get inside his ears or any
Ant-Man's-
kind of holes in his
Ant-Man
body.
is
Nah,
the
Hulk-
worst
the Hulk is-
hero. He's not even a hero.
The Hulk
mate,
is
he's
too
just a
strong for
character.
that. Ant-Man wouldn't be able to
another
break
thing,
him.
what about the Flash? Got to catch him first. Hit
The
him.
Flash is from DC.
So they
Yeah,
cross
but-
over sometimes.
There is
Well,
the
that's not running.
Quicksilver.
That's not really a skill, is it?
Yes, but
running?
you can't smash someone that you can't catch.
Yeah, but the Hulk is so strong that a super speed character would kind of bounce
hit
off
the
of
floor.
him.
Yeah, but he could hit
And
the floor.
Jonathan's
and
just looking
Flash wouldn't
bemused
hurt.
by this entire... Do you know anything about superheroes, Jonathan?
Well, I used to read the Marvel comics, but I've got to say, I mean, geeks love the superhero stuff. But why don't
like
they
to
love
call
things
him
like
forms.
Parsley the Lion, which I used to think was wonderful?
Parsley the Lion.
Yes.
The Hulk would smash Parsley the Lion. I mean, it wouldn't even be a
Parsley
fight. The Hulk would be like...
Herb.
He'd just like...
Herb.
Just
Oh,
squash
yeah.
him in his big
Yeah.
hands.
But the herbs are great,
They
and
were.
yet no geek will follow the herbs.
I mean,
But,
Hulk isn't my favourite, but
on
I
my-
don't think he's bad.
On my iPhone, I've got a geek meter, and it went on full scale deflection as soon as Steve opened his mouth, and it's probably broken now because of the damage to it. It's just overloaded.
I tell you who
Yeah.
I do like, Loki. Loki.
Isn't that Thor's brother?
Yes, he's very funny.
You know,
Very
he's like
wicked man.
he's like an evil god, a trickster
Yeah,
god.
but he's not that evil at the end, though, is he? He learned from his mistakes. He
Again,
was
you're
just,
quoting the movies and not the comics.
he had. Oh God!
Dear, oh dear.
And
Yeah.
also,
Next you're going to tell me
Joker and
that
Loki.
the new Spider-Man is canon as well, because I mean, arguably it is actually, because they're changing it all now. But dear, oh dear.
Look, we've just got to go with the flow, and I think the Joker and Loki would have been better things for him to say, if I'm honest with you.
Well, it would have sounded, but the trouble with lying, right? Because that would be a lie. Loki's no way his favourite superhero, right? And he's not even a superhero.
He is a
But
superhero.
even if he were to say that, and he would then be questioned on it later and caught
Yeah.
out, a little bit like he said in his what was it, his political broadcast. He said his favourite music was The Clash or the Rolling Stones. And I said in my solo podcast earlier, I just hope he was telling the truth. Because if you make up a lie like that, someone's going to catch you out on it.
Yeah.
You know, what's your favourite Stones album? Greatest Hits or something. You know, so you could really end up looking bad.
yeah, but
One
what
and two.
happens if the Greatest Hits album actually is your favourite album?
You don't say it.
No one would never believe you.
Well, you
Or
can't,
you
it's not
say
fair
it.
to say greatest hits, is it? Because they're always great albums because they're full of all the
Yeah.
biggest hits. But they're not a real album, are they? They're a compilation of the greatest hits.
Why
Not the
think
same
that's a
thing.
real album?
I don't think if you listed your favourite... the example I gave earlier was Queen, right? And I don't think if you're
Yeah,
a
but
Queen
Greatest
fan...
Hits is great. You got Greatest Hits 1, 2 and
It
3
is
in
great.
a massive compilation.
Just
Who
to
wants
make
to
it
listen
even
to
more
all those
confusing.
B-sides and songs that no one's ever heard
Well,
of?
what's your favourite Queen album, Sam?
Greatest Hits 1, 2 and 3. Literally is.
The albums.
Mine's Rod Stewart. I love Rod Stewart.
Rod Stewart isn't a Queen album, Susan.
No, I know that. I'm saying he's my
The thing
favourite
is,
artist.
right, there's like probably about 10 awesome Queen songs I like to hear, but none of them are all on one album except Greatest Hits 1, 2
But
and
there
3.
are some really good albums. Queen 2 is the best album.
Do you know England's playing tonight? It's their 1000th game and they're 5-0 up at half time.
Excellent. Sports
Thought-
update from Susan.
Thought I'd throw that in.
Sports update from Susan. Well done, Susan. Thank you. Sports fans, we cover everything here on the podcast. Okay, let's move on. So we've got agenda item 4. Labour has deselected its general election candidate for the North West Cambridgeshire constituency. The Peterborough Telegraph informs us. So the candidate was called Ed Murphy, and he'd been selected 3 weeks ago to contest the seat. Recently handed in his nomination papers, but the Peterborough Telegraph has told us the party has withdrawn its support for him. He previously ran for Labour in the neighbouring Peterborough constituency at the 2010 general election, losing by 5,000 or so votes to the Conservative Stuart Jackson. Since that time, he's been Labour's group leader on the local council. The Daily Mail claimed this week that Mr Murphy had deleted a tweet from July 2014 where he alleged that the Israeli armed forces were backed by the Conservatives on the city council, and he is said to have posted, Israel is a terrorist state, or question mark, and Israeli military is secretly backed by the cons on Peterborough Council, and they're international pirates.
What?
Yeah, this tweet was said to be accompanied by the image of an Israeli flag turned into a symbol of piracy. So, that's just so listeners know. I mean, we're sort of adjacent to this constituency, and we do have some experience of Ed Murphy, and he is a strange sort of character. But I thought this was a fun story. What do you make of it, Jonathan?
It's a fun story. I mean, why would the Israeli armed forces need the support of the Conservative group on Peterborough Council?
Just don't realise how important we are.
Well, exactly. It's just bizarre, really.
What do you make of it, Sam?
Well, just more examples of Labour being anti-Semites, isn't it?
And that's what I think they're so terrified now, because it's so clear they're anti-Semitic that every time a new one pops out, they quickly try and silence it, don't they? But trouble is, the damage is done.
They don't say Labour for the many, not the Jew for no reason.
No.
Because you can't. No, it's not. It's not even a bad thing. They are really badly anti-Semitic. Everyone knows that. They are awful. You cannot tolerate that behaviour from any party at all, and Labour just seem to think it's okay to say awful things about Jewish people, whatever the cost. And I am not, I'm not supportive of that at all. I mean, recently our local council, I put in a motion to adopt the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance version of anti-Semitism, which the government are encouraging everyone to do, and I think everyone should adopt that definition, and it's really important, and so I think it's disgusting that Labour continue to act and behave in this way.
I mean, anti-Semitism is a plague, and Labour do seem to be desperately guilty of it a lot of the time. Not all of them, but enough of them that it does seem to be a stain. But I've read a thing in one of the big papers today that suggested they've deliberately given up on Jewish people because they see their core vote now as a Muslim vote, and there's a well-known animosity between some of the groups of Muslims and Jews, and so they've decided, well, that's where their votes are. If that were the case, I don't know that's the case, but how disgusting a reason to do it. What do you think, Susan? Or you, Jonathan? You speak, Jonathan. You've died to speak.
No, I'm going to say that from the very get-go, I thought there is a strand of quite deep anti-Semitism within the Labour Party, but it's also, from their point of view, it's securing a good chunk of their vote who are, in these sort of run-down Labour seats who are the Muslims in those seats.
Yeah, but you can speak about positive things for your client vote without negatively bashing another vote.
Yeah.
It's just dreadful.
I think they've probably done the maths and thought, well, okay, this is only going to cost us 4 or 5 seats.
Racism by maths.
Yeah, but and these people do. So I mean, it's probably quite, from their point of view, quite a logical decision to just throw away the Jewish vote.
I really...
But these people are going, if they ever get voted in, they're going to have to support whatever people are in their area, aren't they?
Of course they are.
So it's just really sad that they're even taking that into account. It
And
sounds like them deselecting them was a good idea.
Every time you have, I've encountered Ed Murphy a few times myself, and I'm glad he's not the candidate anymore. Let me just say that much. But one of the things that I have noticed is that this anti-Semitism thing, when you talk to a Labour person about it on any group, they always in denial. Not even necessarily a member, just a supporter. They always say, no, it's all lies. It's all spin. The mainstream media have done it deliberately to attack Jeremy Corbyn. It's a complete stitch up, and I think that does them no good, because everybody can see there's some truth to it. They'd be much better off saying, all right, there's some, but we're trying to deal with it, and it really doesn't reflect everyone, because it just makes them look like liars, don't you think?
Yeah. It does.
I mean, I'm going to I'll ask you guys, because the question is, Jeremy Corbyn himself, is he or is he not an anti-Semite? Now, this is just an opinion. We're not saying one way or the other, but I'd like your opinion, your personal opinion. Do you think, Sam, Jeremy Corbyn is an anti-Semite?
Yes.
Susan, do you think Jeremy Corbyn is an anti-Semite?
Yes.
Jonathan, do you think Jeremy Corbyn is an anti-Semite?
Given that he actually went to service commemorating, complaining basically about Israel killing a large number of terrorists, he's been consistently anti-Israel and anti-Jewish.
So yes.
So
So, yeah.
So
I
I
mean,
mean,
it's not an arbitrary yes. It's a, to use a word. It's an objective yes.
I mean, my view is yes as well. But I don't think he's like a Nazi. I'm not accusing him of that sort of extremism. All I'm saying is that he clearly has a bias against Jewish people, and I think it comes out all the time. And he doesn't, no matter how he tries, he can't escape it because
I'll tell you what
in
it
the end,
is.
the truth comes
I
out.
read an article the other day, and do you know why? And maybe it's true, but what people say is the reason that all of the Labour Party hate Jewish people is because they see it as hating capitalism. So they see, in their opinion, that Jewish people. Because obviously they say they're traditionally good with money, so they want to have control over it, and that's a capitalist thing to do. And we don't like capitalism, and we think we should get rid of capitalism, and that's why they hate Jewish people. But I think,
but that's a straightforward Nazi.
It is, yeah, and also
Well, it's racist as well because talking about a whole
Exactly.
group of people as if they're all the same is racist.
Yeah, and also another thing is it's just really stupid because not everyone thinks or acts the same. So just a whole group of people and say they all think a certain way is just actually not only racist but pretty stupid because people don't all think the same way.
Well, so there you go. Have it, guys. We the Unapologetic team think that Jeremy Corbyn is an anti-Semite, and that's our statement. Take it as you will or won't. It's obviously just a personal opinion, though. So we have been Unapologetic, the UK podcast on politics, news, and stuff from a right of centre viewpoint. Any last words, Sam?
No.
Say goodbye then.
Bye.
Any last words, Susan?
No.
Say goodbye then.
Bye.
And Jonathan?
I'll still recommend Zulu as a musical. Goodbye.
And I've been Steve. Talk to you soon.